so many books publishing this year that I am so excited to read, and honestly I feel like could become some of my favourite books of all time. There are 5 in particular that are coming out fairly soon that I am going to read and review, and hopefully I love them. I love filming this video every single year. I love doing a reading vlog where I read my most anticipated releases for the year, and this year, oh my god, I have some good ones. Some of these are publishing before this video will probably be out, some of them are publishing in the summer. I have so many exciting ones. I'm anticipating to rate every single one of these 5 stars. So the TBR for this video, I have 3 of the books physically. So first and foremost, the one that is probably coming out the soonest is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. I absolutely adore Holly Jackson. I have read every single thing she has ever published, and it has always been 4 stars and above for me. She is an auto-buy author for me. This has been one of my most anticipated books from the second I heard about it first publishing, and I'm so excited to get to it. So this is the first one that is publishing out of all of these. I believe the next one that is publishing out of these is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I love Leigh Bardugo. I've definitely had a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to her backlist. I believe I've read all of them now. The Nightfall series I absolutely love. The Six of Crows series I quite liked, but the Shadow and Bone series was not for me and I DNF'd it. So I've had a little bit of a mixed bag with her, but I feel like this book will become my favourite one from her. I don't even really know what it's about. I know it's fantasy, I know it's like historical, hopefully a little bit gothic. I feel like I'm gonna love it. So this is also on the TBR. And the last one that I physically own and is the next one publishing out of all of these is Private Rights by Julia Armfield. Arguably my most anticipated book for the entire year. I adore Julia Armfield so much. She's quickly become one of my favourite authors, only from one book that I've read, which was Our Wives Under the Sea. When I tell you the excitement I have for this book is quickly being overridden by fear. Like, I am so daunted by this. I'm so scared I'm not going to enjoy it or I'm not going to like it, even though I feel like that's fairly impossible. This book and its synopsis sounds like my perfect book. I feel like it's really going to resonate with me, and I already know I absolutely adore Julia Armfield's writing. So this one, honestly, I'm hoping to become a favourite of all time. And then the last 2 books on my TBR for this video are on my Kindle. They are both e-arc. First one on my Kindle, the next one that is being published, is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Ashley Poston, another author who is quickly becoming one of my favourites. I absolutely adore The Dead Romantics, but The 7-Year Slip, one of my favourite romance books of all time, like one of my favourite books of last year. This is undoubtedly one of my like probably top 3 most anticipated books for the year, and I'm literally so excited for it. And then last but certainly not least, another one that is on my Kindle is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I have only read A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid last year, and I really loved it. I know that that book did get quite a little bit of mixed reviews, but for me, absolutely adored it. I've obviously stayed clear from what Lady Macbeth is about. I really don't want to know. I want to go into it as blind as possible, the same with all of these. But another one that, again, I'm anticipating to rate 5 stars, and that, guys, is my TBR for this video. Dare I say that this is my best TBR that I've ever had for any reading vlog ever. Like, dare I say we get 5 stars, 5 for 5? Imagine. I'm praying. I'm so excited for all of these, and the first one that I'll be reading, going out of order, but I literally cannot wait, is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I am currently 20% of the way through A Novel Love Story, and guys, Ashley Poston knows how to write. We've been new. This woman literally did The 7-Year Slip and The Dead Romantics, but this one, when I tell you the comforting vibe, like, I'm reading it, I want to be in this book. I kind of went into this book knowing near to nothing. I purposely really do try to steer away from synopses and what the book is about and any reviews before I go into them. Same with all of these books on my TBR. But this one especially, I very loosely knew what it was about. Obviously, Ashley Poston writes romances, but she does it in a way that also has a little bit of a magical element, sometimes a supernatural element. And I really wanted to go into this not really knowing what that was, but oh my god, like, the perfect synopsis for any book lover. They're following a protagonist who essentially gets stuck in her favourite book. Like, she gets stuck in her favourite world, like the world of her favourite book. When is that going to happen to me? Obviously, I'm only 20% of the way through, so I still don't know the entire plot, but that is essentially what we are following, and I am loving the vibe so much already. Like, obviously, it's her favourite book, so it's so comforting off the get-go. Even at the beginning, where I assume our protagonist is meeting the love interest for the book, like, the vibes, oh my god. Our protagonist is a huge reader, a huge romance reader. She's always dreamed of having this like really swoon-worthy, like novel-worthy, romance novel-worthy romance. She's never experienced it. She doesn't think she's ever going to experience it. So she kind of really analyzes her life and the relationships around her and everybody else and strangers around her in the form of like a novel. Obviously, as a reader, I'm absolutely adoring that, and I feel like because of that, this book is going to do so well, alongside the fact that Ashley Poston is an incredible writer. What's also really interesting is that I don't really like books that have a ton of pop culture references. I think that that is the quickest way to like date a book, but Ashley Poston does it so well. Like, she's already mentioned Emily Henry. and I ate it up. I'm really trying to savor it because I believe it doesn't also come out until June, so I don't really want to read it super quickly, but I know that's undoubtedly going to happen. Like, I fear that I will binge read it in the next 2 days. Yeah, that's my update so far on A Novel Love Story. I wanted to update you now before I read probably the entire thing. I'm gonna go to a cafe right now, sit and read this book. Literally the most perfect vibes. That is my perfect day. Reading an Ashley Poston at a cafe with a coffee or a matcha. So oh my god. Stop. I'm scared about where this is gonna go. Like, I love it.
Side by side we sway there in all the colors.
Guys, if I sound or look ill, it's because I am. I've been so ill for the past week and a half that I haven't updated you, but I need to give an update because I have now finished A Novel Love Story and I absolutely adored this. My experience reading this was incredibly joyful, minus the fact that I was ill. I did feel like I was slowly slumping. I don't think that is because of the book. I think it is more the fact that I have been reading so much recently, so it's kind of catching up to me, and also I just was ill, so I didn't really want to read. I have now finished A Novel Love Story, and guys, the right way you left me, girlies, you're about to go feral. Ashley Poston wrote this for The Right Way You Left Me, girlies, and that's all I need to say. Like, nothing more needs to be said. This was incredible. I adore Ashley Poston as a writer for so many reasons and so many different things that she does in her craft. For example, the way that she writes about grief. I love a silly, goofy romance book in general, but when there is a romance book that has that extra layer of depth, especially in terms of grief or loss or like family, I love situations like that in a romance book. And Ashley Poston endlessly does it perfectly, and she did that again in A Novel Love Story. I do think this book in particular, obviously I know Ashley Poston, like, everybody loves her. Like, The 7-Year Slip was everyone's favourite book of last year, including one of mine. But I do think A Novel Love Story is going to do so well because it is a book in a book. If you don't know what the synopsis of this book is about, we are essentially following a protagonist who has this favourite book series. She's on the road in her car on her way to see her friends because she does this kind of book club with them. When she gets to this place, that is essentially, she finds out her favourite book. So like, the protagonist literally goes into the town of her favourite book, and it is so much about that. I think that is all you need to know going into it, because that is all I kind of knew, and it made the reading experience so incredible. I adored these characters so much. I adored our protagonist, I adored our love interest, I adored the themes being explored. There is something so incredibly cozy about reading a protagonist who is stuck in her favourite book. As readers, obviously I'm sure we have all thought about that, like if we were stuck in our favourite books or stuck in a fantasy world or like a world that we love in general, how that would go and how we would feel about it. So reading that perspective was so incredibly comforting and joyful and equally quite heartbreaking, and I just absolutely adored it. I literally have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be another one of Ashley Poston's books on everyone's favourite list of 2024. Like, chapter 17, why is chapter 17 the best chapter that has ever been written in any book ever? Like that, but oh my god, that chapter had me sat, had me giggling, had me gagged. Oh my god. Honestly, I'm so happy that I started with this book for this video because I'm so like in awe and so in love with it. I ended up rating it, if I was being picky, 4.5 stars to 4.75. But on Goodreads I did up it to a 5, obviously because there's no half ratings. Goodreads, where's the update? And if I'm being honest with myself, when I read The 7-Year Slip, I also rated that one 4.5 stars, but it was one that I could never stop thinking about, so it ended up being 5 stars, one of my favourite books of the year. I have a sneaky suspicion that this is going to be the exact same, and this is definitely just going to end up being 5 stars for me, but if I'm being picky, 4.75. If this wasn't already on your radar for whatever reason for this year, I 100% absolutely recommend it to you. Even if you don't normally read romances, I think that's one of the things that makes Ashley Poston so great, the way that she writes them in quite a literary sense, and there's also always a bit of magical realism in them. It ends up applying to such a big readership, and I think that it just works in her favour, and honestly I just absolutely adore her. Definitely an auto-buy author for me, quickly becoming a favourite author for me. But yeah, that was A Novel Love Story, the first book for this video. I am literally in love with this book, if I haven't said that enough. And now let's go on to our next read. Next on the list is a reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. First and foremost, look at how stunning like the naked hardback of this book is. Like, I'm obsessed. I picked this up this morning and I read 121 pages in one sitting. What is always so great about Holly Jackson, and clearly is no different for this book, is how fast paced they are. I'm not gonna lie, because I felt like I was starting to slump, I was quite nervous, which is why I kind of went for this one next, knowing that I love Holly Jackson's books. Obviously I love all of these books, but Holly Jackson's in particular, and the thriller aspect, so quick paced. I was kind of looking at the list for this video and I was like, if any of these books is going to stop me from getting into a slump, it'll probably be this one, so that is why I chose this one next. Clearly that did wonders for me this morning because I read such a large chunk of it and I'm really enjoying it. I have avoided all reviews for this book, all comments on this book like the plague. I feel like when it comes to thrillers, I don't want to know anything. I get so nervous and hyper aware that if I see one review or one comment, like I might interpret it a certain way and be able to guess what's happening, or like I'll figure it out, I don't know. But I have avoided everything about this book like the plague, and I'm so happy I did because now I'm reading it and I'm literally looking at every single character and I'm like, you are a suspect. I have missed so much reading one of Holly Jackson's books. I'm really trying to figure out what is happening in it, and honestly right now I have no idea. There are definitely some things in this book that I've noticed being repeated, like small things or like emphasized, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's gonna play a part at the end of the book. And I'm like, I do have a list of them in my head. Obviously this is spoiler free, so I'm not gonna say what they are, but I do definitely have my suspicions and I'm gonna carry on to have my suspicions even if I'm gonna be wrong. I would definitely like to get up to maybe page 250-ish, which is another 100 pages or so, and yeah, maybe I'll even finish it today if I carry on binge reading it. Yeah, I will be back once I have read a little bit more of The Reappearance of Rachel Price. So I've now finished The Reappearance of Rachel Price, and I'm not gonna lie, I did have every intention of updating you on my thoughts, giving you my theories. I ended up reading this so quick. I feel like I binge read the first 200 pages in one day and then the last 200 pages in another, and I had such a good time at reading this. I don't know what crack Holly Jackson puts in her books. They hit every time. This one specifically, I will say, I did guess certain points. I guess like probably 2 of the biggest plot twists, but I don't know why with Holly Jackson. Normally with thrillers, if I guess what happens, it does sometimes naturally diminish my enjoyment at the end. But with Holly Jackson, it never does. Like, I still have the best time in the world and it's still so fun to read even if I know and I've figured out what is happening, and that is exactly what happened with this, and I loved it still. Although I would say that some of the plot twists were fairly predictable, I need to kind of remind myself that this is a YA thriller, and naturally there's always going to be a bit of predictability, but this was just so fun, and Holly Jackson is just a master at writing thriller books. This one for me definitely beats 5 Survive. I would definitely say that The Good Girl's Guide to Murder is still absolutely untouched for me. I don't think any of her books will ever surpass it, but this one I definitely did prefer to 5 Survive. I ended up rating it 4 stars. I 100% recommend this whether you've read Holly Jackson's books before or not, or even if you don't really read a lot of YA. And that is the second book down for this video. Next we are going to go on to The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. Am I updating you incredibly late post-shower? Yeah, I am. I am on chapter 30 of this, which is page 198, and I'm not gonna lie, to begin with, I have been updating all of my thoughts on my Goodreads. If you ever want to see what I'm reading in real time and like my thoughts in real time, definitely head over to my Goodreads. It's always linked down below, but like never before, I have been updating my thoughts on this. And to begin with, when I started it, I was so confused. I feel like a lot of the times when I start Leigh Bardugo's books, I'm always confused no matter what. And as I slowly obviously carry on reading, I get less confused, but I was really worried going into this because I have a track record with Leigh Bardugo where I love so many of hers and also not so much. I obviously loved Ninth House and Hellbent, but when it came to the Shadow and Bone trilogy, I DNF'd it, and Six of Crows I liked, but I wasn't a huge fan of. So for Leigh Bardugo and me, it's a little bit of a tricky relationship. We're not always like this, so I was really nervous how this was going to land for me. But right now, past the initial confusion, I am loving it. There are definitely certain things that are happening currently where I'm like, oh my god, I really hope that it carries on going in this direction and this happens, especially in terms of the romance. Obviously I don't want to say too much. This book is definitely still in places quite confusing to me, or there's still things left unsaid or things that need to be kind of spoken about. I obviously still don't have the full picture halfway in, but right now I'm definitely enjoying it more than I was initially, which is such a pleasant surprise. I've kind of been flicking between the audiobook and the physical book, and I'm not gonna lie, having the audiobook I think is really helping me get properly into the story. What I think Leigh Bardugo always does so great is atmospheres. The atmospheres in her books are some of my favorites in the entire world. I think it's only when it comes to certain plots and characters it's just a little bit confusing for me, but the atmosphere and the vibe hits every single time, and this is absolutely no different. Like, I'm loving it so much. The whole like pomegranate imagery, as a girl who loves cannibalism as a metaphor for love, as a girl who loves Ethel Cain and the fig tree analogy, pomegranates being a huge thing in this, sold. I feel like that was quite niche, but you know what I mean. If you know, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of an update before I read some more, as I am now halfway through, and hopefully I end up loving it more, or just as much as I am now. Was I sitting in this exact same spot the last time I updated you on The Familiar? Because I think I was, but I can't remember. We're just gonna go with it and we're gonna stay here, but I have now finished The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I can't remember what the last thing I said was when I last updated you in terms of how much I was enjoying it, because I won't lie, there was a moment there I thought it was going to be my favourite Leigh Bardugo. In terms of the love interest and the romance, absolutely loved. That might have been the last update that I actually gave. I loved that element so much. I don't know if this is because it's a standalone, and it meant that the ending, like the third act of the book, had to be kind of rounded up in a way that a lot of her other novels aren't, because they're not always standalones. I really don't know what it is, but this really fell flat by the end for me, because when I was reading it, I was like, I liked the first half, wasn't my favourite. The middle half and going into the second half, I absolutely adored, and that was when I was like, okay, this could genuinely be one of my favourite Leigh Bardugo books. Spoiler alert, it's not. I don't know what happened. I don't know why it fell flat for me, but by the end I was just like, meh, meh. I don't know what else to give other than that. I'm so sad about it. Obviously, this was one of my most anticipated reads for the year. Did I expect to rate it 5 stars? No. The predicting rating for me was probably more so 4.5 stars other than 5 stars, and obviously, if you couldn't tell already, it's neither of those. I think I'm going to give it a 3.5 star. On Goodreads, I did rate it a 3 star, but in my heart of hearts, it's 3.5, which obviously is not a bad rating by any means. I enjoyed so much about this book. Like I said, the romance and the male love interest, loved. Also, always absolutely adore the atmosphere that Leigh Bardugo creates. I think the way that Leigh Bardugo makes an atmosphere and the setting's always so gloomy and gothic and so atmospheric, to the point that you can genuinely picture every single scene that's happening. I think in terms of that, her writing is always impeccable. She is such an incredible novelist for that. I don't know what it is sometimes when it comes to just her plots. Sometimes they do just fall flat for me, and it has happened quite a lot of times in many of the books I've read from her, which is always so annoying, because I do genuinely love so many elements of her writing and so many elements of her books, but in others I'm just like, I just don't care enough by the end. That was me finishing The Familiar, and then I instantly got into reading Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I started reading it on my Kindle. I got 6% of the way through, and I'm not DNFing it. Starting now, I'm not DNFing it, but I'm not going to read it for this video. I got 6% of the way through, and already I'm like, fuck, I'm confused. There is a glossary at the start of the book in terms of different names for England and Scotland and certain other like magical things, which obviously happens a lot in fantasy. But because it's an e-arc, and sometimes with NetGalley e-arcs, chapters aren't like headlined on your Kindle. You know how on your Kindle you can go to like chapter 1 or like chapter 40? A lot of the times with e-arcs and on NetGalley you can't do that. You will literally have to just flip to where you need to go to. So I can't literally flip backwards and forwards to the glossary, which is absolutely fine. It's a little problem. Like, I took a picture of the glossary on my phone, but then that does mean that I have to like have my phone on hand every time I want to read, and that is just not good for me because I will not end up reading anything. I'm going to admit something here. As somebody who has studied English for, oh my god, decades, who went to uni to do English literature, this is my fatal flaw. I don't admit this lightly. I know nothing about Macbeth. I've never read Macbeth. I don't know the plot of Macbeth. Not a clue, babe. And obviously Lady Macbeth is a Macbeth retelling. I have no idea what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to consume one way of Macbeth. Whether I decide to read the play, I listen to an audiobook of the play, I watch a film or like an adaptation of the play, I have no idea. But I'm going to do that before I actually start reading Lady Macbeth. Don't take this defeat lightly. Obviously I could consume a form of Macbeth and then just carry on reading Lady Macbeth for this video, but there are other books that I want to read beforehand. So what I've given myself option to do, or I'm just doing anyway, because I realized that one of my most anticipated releases of the year I didn't even include in this video, and this one is actually coming out, or it's out now. It's out, I'm a liar. It's out in the time that I'm filming this. It's definitely out by the time that you're seeing this. Take your wild guesses as to what I'm going to read in replacement of Lady Macbeth. Funny Story by Emily Henry. I didn't forget that this was coming out because obviously it's one of my most anticipated books for the entire year, but I don't know why when I was making my TBR for this video I was like, I'm not going to add Funny Story. Well, now in replacement of Lady Macbeth I will be reading Funny Story by Emily Henry. So we still have 2 books to read for this video. I didn't really want to come on and just say that I wasn't going to read Lady Macbeth in this video now, because obviously I said that I would and just leave you with one more book to read. So Dare I say this is my next read. This is absolutely a 5-star prediction for me. I'm literally so excited. I think in terms of Emily Henry, and when she releases books, like the better her books for me are the newest ones. Wait, that made absolutely no sense. The newer books for me are the best ones for me. Like my favorite now is definitely Happy Place and then Book Lovers, You and Me on Vacation and Beach Read, but I do need to reread those two last ones, like You and Me on Vacation and Beach Read, to genuinely have a solid ranking, but those would be my favorites. So I feel like her newer books for me are the ones that I tend to love more. So by that knowledge, that should be 5 stars. A long-winded way of saying that Funny Story by Emily Henry is going to be my next read. Guys, I've just come off of my TikTok live and I'm not gonna lie, I did absolutely no reading. But what I did do was I opened Funny Story and I was trying to like see what the first line was. I tell you, I'm at a loss for words. So today, the day that I'm filming this, is Wednesday the 1st of May. Wednesday the 1st of May, okay? So tell me when I'm just opening this and I'm like, oh, I wonder what the first line is. Wednesday the 1st of May. Guys, just to prove, clearly I'm filming this on the 1st of May and then Wednesday the 1st of May. Like, it is actually, guys, it's the 1st of May. Like, obviously this is just clearly a silly little coincidence, but like, and then I carried on reading the first page and then somebody called Peter was mentioned as I was listening to Peter by Taylor Swift. I don't know what the universe is saying, like what sign it's trying to give me in terms of Funny Story, but like, it was weird, okay? It was weird. But I am gonna go now to have dinner and then I'm gonna go watch challenges with some friends. I'm not gonna be doing any reading for a couple of hours, but I do definitely want to make a proper start on Funny Story when I'm home. I just had to share that with you because it's just weird. Guys, please don't hate me because I didn't update you a lot. I finished Funny Story by Emily Henry. Oh my god, I know that this was getting so many mixed reviews, so much so that I started getting incredibly nervous. I just punched myself in the face. Not that nervous, but I was nervous to get into it because everyone was like, oh, I feel like this is one of her least best novels. One of her best in my opinion, babe. I don't know what I'm currently wanting to rate it. I think I'm just gonna tell you my thoughts and then hopefully by the end of that I've come to a conclusion in my brain. I absolutely adore this. So many of the criticisms I've seen was I wasn't very attracted to the male love interest. Me? Don't know about you. I thought he was fab. Maybe fab isn't the right word, but I didn't really understand where people were coming from with that, and I guess it is so subjective and everyone's own opinion, but I thought this was really good. I thought that this was her most rom-com-y novel yet. I loved the fact that it was fake dating and also sort of like housemates, roommates. I adored the tension that those two tropes brought, but equally I adored the protagonists as individuals, and equally even more so when they came together. Absolutely loved the way that this ended and the way that Daphne held her own even by the end. Obviously I'm not going to give spoilers, but this is a romance, so you know that it's going to end like happy. I adored the way that Daphne was written and the sort of character development that she had from the beginning to the end, and how she very much did hold her own even at the end. Well, that was a real credit to her character and to the book and the way that so many women feel when they get out of a long-term relationship. I'm not gonna lie, did I say at the beginning that I was expecting this to be my favourite Emily Henry book yet? Yes. Is it? Absolutely not. Happy Place, still there for me. I do definitely think it's up there. I don't 100% agree with the mixed reviews. I personally really loved it and I'm really happy that I did because, as I said, I was quite nervous going into it because I thought that people didn't like it. Emily Henry is still definitely an autobiographer for me. I finished this morning and I already want another book from her. I don't know what she puts in her books, but the way that she writes romances and rom-coms with that extra layer of depth and character analysis, I just fall head over heels for every time. And this was absolutely no different. I loved Funny Story. I think based on what I've said, I'm currently going to rate it 4 star. If I was being picky, probably a 4.25, but I don't really want to do that, so I'm going to rate it 4 stars. I'm happy with that. That was Funny Story, and now going on to my most anticipated book of the entire year. Let's read Private Rights by Julia Armfield. Oh my god. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I am so sad because I filmed my entire experience reading Private Rights by Julia Armfield. Obviously this was my most anticipated book of the entire year, so I feel like more so than any other book that I would read this year, I had the most to say about it. I had the highest expectations for it. Of course, conveniently, all of the clips that I filmed of that got corrupted and I no longer have, which obviously I'm so sad about it, but I'm just going to tell you what I said, and then yeah, I've obviously finished it now. My thoughts. I initially going into this obviously had such high expectations. I absolutely adore Julia Armfield. I loved Our Wives Under the Sea. I have since also read Salt Slow by her, which I also absolutely adored. This was a 6-star predicted book for me, and spoiler alert, I'll tell you now, it was nothing close to that. It was me with so much heartbreak and honestly a little bit of dread to come and tell you that. I'm quite nervous. But I definitely want to preface that I still absolutely adore Julia Armfield and her writing style. Her writing style in this was what carried it for me 100%. I had such high expectations, as I keep saying, and I think maybe that is what kind of made my reading experience also a little bit disappointing. In this, we are following 3 sisters and their relationship with one another after they have lost their dad. It is absolutely a story about grief and sisterhood and whether their relationship is bettering or worsening after his death. I also knew going into this that this is a book that I would relate to and resonates with me quite deeply, because I have definitely had an experience of parental loss, and I love the way that Julia Armfield spoke about grief in Our Wives Under the Sea, so I thought in this one, oh my god, it's going to be a 5-star. I'm gonna love it. And absolutely, don't get me wrong, I love the way still that she spoke about grief in this, but I thought it would be more prevalent considering the synopsis and the themes. It's also kind of set at the end of the world. It is very much emphasized that this is the end of the world, but all we kind of get in terms of that post-apocalyptic state is that it doesn't stop raining. It obviously makes it such an incredible atmospheric read, and it absolutely was that. I do kind of wish I was reading it during like a thunderstorm or something. I didn't have that. Absolutely perfect for that, but again, I wish it was more prevalent, and I just think in terms of my expectations, it was nothing of the sort. What I also really loved in Our Wives Under the Sea by her is how slow paced it was, but with such an incredible reward at the end. And obviously because it's such a character study, Our Wives Under the Sea, that it kind of had to be slow, and we forgave it for being slow because the book was so incredible and the character study 100% made up for it. But this one, all in all, I feel like was incredibly slow, and the payoff at the end didn't kind of match it. This is absolutely a character study over plot sort of vibe. I think if you don't like that, don't pick this up. If you do like Julia Armfield's writing, if you've read from her before, or you like character studies, do pick this up. Definitely give it a try. I will say though, whilst we're talking about the ending, if the entire book had been like the last 50 pages, that is what I wanted from this book. I loved the way this book ended. Definitely does have some sort of thing at the end that separates it to the rest of the book, and I loved it. I just wish the entire book was like that. But as well as me being annoyed that all of my clips for this corrupted and I have to refilm it, I'm also annoyed that this was not a favorite book of the year. Like, it definitely will not be, and that it was not 5 stars. All in all, my rating is sitting at currently a 4 stars. That may be subject to change. It could go lower, it could go slightly higher. If it went higher, not anything past 4.25. I'm sitting very comfortably with a 4 stars. So Julia Armfield's Private Rights, 4 stars. I am kind of sad about it. With that, that marks the end of today's video. Guys, thank you so much for watching and for being here whilst I read some of my most anticipated books of the year. I definitely have quite a few more anticipated releases releasing throughout the rest of the year, so if you want to see a part 2 to this vlog, definitely let me know. If you've read any of the books that I also read in this video, or if they're one of your anticipated releases too, definitely let me know. Equally, let me know of any of your anticipated releases that may not be on this. I feel like that's a really good way to get some recommendations. If you watch this far into the video but you don't really know what to comment, but you want to show you stayed until the end, comment any book emoji. Obviously this is a booktube video, but equally I think A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston is probably my favourite that I read in this vlog. And yeah guys, as always, again, thank you so much for being here and for spending some time with me. I love you all, and I will see you again very, very soon with another video.